Welcome to this brief video in which we're going to provide a summary or a brief introduction to the conference presentations that are going to be taking place at this year's AQE, Air Quality and Emissions event, which for the first time will take place at the NEC, and it'll be on the 9th to the 10th of October this year. And I'm delighted to have with me Rod Robinson, Principal Scientist at NPL, who has put together the emissions side of the conference. So thanks for joining me, Rod. I wonder if you could kick off by describing the main themes for this year's conference.
Yes, thanks, Graham. And yeah, together with some colleagues at NPL, we've been working with the organisers of AQE to put together a really comprehensive programme of talks. And we've revamped the conference programme a bit for 2024 at AQE. AQE's really always had that excellent mix of the exhibition and the conference talks. And what we've done this year is we've extended the emissions conference to cover two other really key and growing areas of emissions monitoring. So we've got a core conference over the 2 days, which is looking at industrial emissions. And then we've added in a special session on methane on one day, and then a session on looking at sort of energy transition. So we're covering carbon capture, usage and storage, and hydrogen monitoring. So within the main emissions conference, we're going to be covering the usual sort of updates for people on regulation, looking at the new challenges of monitoring and some of the new species such as PFAS, polyfluorinated alkyl substances, drilling down to some of the quality and uncertainty issues in the monitoring data. And we've got a session on some challenges of odor monitoring. And then in the methane, the hydrogen CCUS programs, we're really going to drill down into some of the emerging regulations, which are increasing the needs for companies to monitor in those areas, and look at some of the challenges of monitoring these new sources. And we'll be looking at some of the really exciting technical advances in the capabilities for these measurements. One of the other innovations we're making for this year is we're going to add a panel discussion across the three themes at the end of the conference program, which will really be a chance for some of the thought leaders in the emissions monitoring area to discuss the challenges, the future challenges in monitoring. So that'll be a really interesting session to round out the conference, where we'll hear from people on what they think the future holds for emissions monitoring. So really exciting program, and I'm really excited and looking forward to seeing the talks.
And what can you tell me about the hydrogen and carbon capture conference? That's obviously one of the...
So within that one, we're looking, as people will be aware, these are growing areas of regulation for reporting emissions from these. There will be requirements for reporting fugitive emissions from hydrogen systems. We're seeing a lot of work in the UK looking at transition to a hydrogen energy. And so we're looking at what are the challenges of monitoring fugitive and point source emissions of hydrogen, and what likely regulations will there be. And similarly with the carbon capture and storage, we'll be looking at some of the monitoring requirements we'll have for pollutants associated with carbon capture, things like nitrosamines, and also some of the needs for monitoring CO2 emissions from the capture systems.
And the regulatory requirements that you'll be covering, are they UK specific or European or global?
So there will be requirements that will be European and global, but we'll be focusing at AQE on some of what's likely to be happening in the UK. And we've got UK regulators as a part of the conferences to give us an update on what the likely monitoring requirements will be.
Perfect. So how would you describe perhaps the job descriptions of the people that should come to the conference?
So I think we really, anybody with an interest in emissions, so industries affected, get an update on the requirements and the capabilities that are out there for monitoring. We've got regulators talking, we've got providers of the measurement capabilities, and you'll get an update on the standards and the development of some of the methodologies. But also technology providers get an overview of the emerging markets, regulators understand the capabilities. So really anyone who's involved in emissions monitoring will find something of interest at the conference.
Sure. Okay. So as I said at the beginning, the event will take place at the NEC, and I should also mention that it'll be taking place alongside another conference on air quality. So you mentioned that there'll be an exhibition, and a lot of the technology providers will be at the exhibition. There'll also be people who provide and manufacture ambient air quality monitoring equipment. So visitors will be able to see that as well. There's also workshops that go on in and around the conferences. And also alongside this kind of air-focused conference, there's a it's called WEM, Water, Wastewater and Environmental Monitoring Conference, going alongside. So anyone with an interest in environmental monitoring will be able to find absolutely anything that they may be looking for at this specific event. There is registration now, I believe, available, Rod?
Yes, yep. I think registration is open. The conference program is on the website.
Sounds good, Rod. Look forward to seeing you in October.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks. Bye.